What are we going to be making? Throwing on the wheel is very difficult. So in Ceramics 1, we basically just make a wheel thrown cylinder. Basically what this is a centered cylinder, and it has basically even walls and an even bottom. So we'll kind of talk about this as we go. We also have a 90-degree corner down here at the bottom. We'll have a rounded top because this is the only thing that's ever going to touch someone's lips. It's an art form that actually touches someone's lips because the cylinder is the basis for the a mug. Okay, so you're actually going to drink out of this thing. So you can't have something that's really, really sharp. The other thing that we do is we flip the bottom, and I'll talk about all this stuff as we go. The other thing that sometimes I use as an acronym, actually Northern Clay Center uses it, it's called COPS. So that's center, open, pull, and shape. Okay, I'll kind of talk about those 4 things. Those are 4 things you're going to end up doing when you are on the wheel. But the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go back to the back, and you're going to want to grab some clay. Okay, the clay in the barrel is gone through the pug mill. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to kind of knead it. Okay, so what you can do is you can put it down onto a surface and kind of knead it together, or kind of get those air bubbles out. And then once you have that done, then I kind of hit it kind of hard. I try and I get this shaped into a nice sphere, because half the battle of centering on the wheel is getting this into the right shape to begin with. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to measure how heavy these spheres are, because you don't want to have anything heavier than a pound. It's very difficult to, as a beginner, to start with more than a pound. Okay, so on this scale, you're going to be dealing with the black numbers. So this is a pound. What I recommend is that you make 4 of these before you sit down at your wheel. Okay, because if you don't, you're gonna have wet hands. You're gonna have to go back and wash out your hands, and then go back and start over again. So make 4, because you're gonna have some failures. Trust me. Okay. Then once you come up to your wheel, you should find a bucket, and you're gonna want to put about half the bucket of water. You're gonna want to fill it up with cold or warm. I don't care. It's totally personal preference. And then I usually put it, and those buckets should be on your wheel, because we set that up this morning. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it to the corner. I usually put it to the left side. It's up to you what you want to do, just kind of personal preference. A couple things you want to know. This wheel comes apart in 2 pieces on the bottom. I'll kind of show you how to do that. And then all wheels should have a plastic bat on them. Plastic bats make your life so much easier. If you try to throw on this wheel, you're going to hit the bat pins, and those hurt, so make sure that you have a bat on your wheel. If you don't, the Batmobile is in the back. Yes, that's the official term for it. And it has bats on it. Just take one, put one onto your wheel if it's missing for any reason. Okay, the other thing that you should have at your wheel when you start, other than a bat, is a large sponge for cleaning. Just gotta put that off to the side for now. You're gonna want one of these. This is your 90-degree tool. It's just a shaper. It has a nice 90-degree here. That's what you're gonna be using for the inside. You're gonna have a footing tool. Mine's kind of dirty, but that's okay. And it looks like this. You should have a needle tool. And you should have a scraper. I usually have 2 because I like this one really a lot, but it does quite a bit for me. But one of these, either one is fine. I have 2 of those. And then you need a wire tool, a small sponge, and that's it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. You'll also be sitting on a stool. I'm sitting on this chair because it's about the same height now that I set it up. What you want to do when you come up to your wheel is you want to make sure you're sitting at it in the right placement. So you need to be right up, basically almost sitting right on top of it. Okay, sometimes students like to touch their chair. The reason is that when you're kind of using your hands to get this centered, you're going to be using quite a bit of force. And if you're way back here, you can't really do that. You can't really use the most force possible in your body to get that centered. Okay, so you have to kind of roll up here. The other thing is you should have your nose right over the top. So that means you need to lean over. Don't try and throw way back here. It's not going to work. All right, so first thing I would do is wheels also have a foot pedal. They have an on-off switch here on the side, and this one doesn't go left-handed. But who are my left-handed people in here? Y'all rock. I'm left-handed too, but I learned how to throw right-handed because this one doesn't go left-handed. But if you want to, you can throw left-handed. Here's how you tell if it's going the right direction. If it's rotating counterclockwise, you're on a right-handed wheel. If it's going the other way, if it's going clockwise, you're on a left-handed wheel. That's a big deal if you throw the wrong way, okay? So if you do want to do it left-handed, I'm fine with that. I'm going to show it right-handed because that's just the way that I learned, and mine at home doesn't go left-handed, so I was forced to go the other way. Okay, so first thing, you're sitting in the right spot. You kind of have your foot on the foot pedal. If you don't like that, you can always set it up here. Sometimes Mr. Masick puts it up here and sort of just turns it on and then lets it go. It's totally up to you what you want to do, okay? Now, I am going to say that there's quite a few ways to throw in the wheel. So I'm going to show you one. Mine is distinctly different than Mr. Masick, which is fine. We do have his video too that we can show if you want a different way to do it. All right, so once I have my spheres set up, and they're relatively round, first thing I'm going to do is I need to find the center of this wheel. So I'm going to dip my finger into the water. I'm going to start kind of rolling this forwards, and I'm going to put kind of a water ring on here that gives me an indication as to where the center of this wheel is. Because again, half the battle on centering is getting it set up in the first place. Now, this is dry. This is dry. Do not get any water in between here. It will start sliding around, and then all of a sudden you'll have this ball rolling around out here, and you'll laugh. It's funny, but it's not going to work. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to take my sphere and I want to put it on here, and I'm going to lean over to double check that I think, and I'm going to eyeball it, that it's in the middle of my bat. And then I'm going to push down. Some people throw it on, but my aim is not great some days. So I just push it down just to make sure that it gets stuck on there. Because if it's not stuck on there, it's just going to keep going around. And again, it's funny, but, oh, I should take my watch off. So I would take jewelry off, and I would wear an apron, because if you're a beginner, you're probably going to get a little slimed. All right? Next, I have my sphere on the bat. Next, I'm going to get my hands really wet. So I want to have quite a bit of water on this. You're going to be putting quite a bit of water onto this clay. Once you do that, then you're going to start rolling this forwards. Now, for those of you who drive, you would never go all the way foot to the floor on that accelerator pedal from a stoplight, right? No. So you got to take it slow, and I would actually go about halfway. Now, cars and trucks are quirky, wheels are quirky too, so each one of these are going to be slightly different. So sometimes I suggest you just continue throwing in the same one once you get used to it. So now I have this kind of rolling forwards. I get my hands wet again. I'm going to put my elbows onto my thighs, and they're going to stay there, which means I am forcing myself to be right over the top of this. and then I'm gonna push. Okay, I make this look easy. Now I have a centered project. Okay, so this is what we call center. That's the C in COPS. We're gonna center this. How did I do this? I pushed this way and slightly down. It takes quite a bit of muscles to do that. So that's why I say lean over. If you don't have enough upper body strength, sometimes you can use your thighs to do that, okay? Next, I'm just gonna keep going with this. This is what we call coning up. So we have a nice cone here, kind of looks like a cone at this point. The next step is to push this down so that it looks like an upside down pop can. Does everybody know what an upside down pop can looks like? Okay, I use what I like to term the karate chop method. Here's how we're gonna do it. You're gonna use this little spot on your hand, on your right hand side, and your left hand is going to support this from the bottom. So I'm gonna kind of lean in, and I'm going to put my hand on top of this, and I'm gonna push down. I'm actually not gonna go, wah. That's not gonna work. So I learned this way. You kind of use this, push down on it while you push forwards, and this should kind of flatten this down into an upside down pop can, okay? All right, so now it looks like an upside down pop can. This is when you've kind of got the whole thing centered. Now, the way that I learned it, teacher that I had, he kind of said you can do that multiple times till it's centered. I believe that to a point. Okay, so if it's not centered here, you can go back and cone up, you can go back down, you can cone back up, you can go back down until it's centered. If it's way off, that's never gonna work, but you can do it. Once you pass this step, you can no longer do that anymore. So the next step is to open this up. Okay, I have to put a hole in the center. So I'm going to take both of my hands, I'm going to put them on both sides of this. I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to dig down in. I'm going to dig down in, but I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to leave a little bit of space. Okay, so now I have a hole inside of it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out because I want to make this a little bit bigger on the inside. So while I have it kind of halfway in between again, I'm going to pull towards the outside. Alright, so now I've got a bigger hole on the inside. The other thing that you want to do, if you were making a project and just get kind of used to it, is clay wants to be compressed. So I like to compress my bottom now. I usually take my sponge and I just push down. Here's the reason. If you don't have a compressed bottom, it's probably going to crack. And it won't crack till maybe you sent it through 2 kilns. That happened to me a couple of years ago. I made a dog bowl for one of my friends. I was going to take it out to when I saw him in Seattle, and it cracked. And guess what? I had to give him the cracked one because I didn't have time to make another one until I came back here. So just double check that your bottom is compressed, and all you're doing is you're pushing down with the sponge. Okay, so now I've gone through centering, opening. So we're in C and O. The next one is pulling. Pulling means that you're going to pull these walls up, because if you notice, those of you sitting here close, I've got at least maybe an inch, inch and a quarter. Well, yeah, it's probably more like an inch here, and that's too thick. So in order to make this taller, I'm going to pull this up. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to take my left hand, and I'm going to continue to get my hands wet. I'm going to put that on the inside. And if I'm right-handed, I'm going to be, if you're looking at this wheel here, kind of think about it like a clock. If you're looking at this, you want to be working about 5 o'clock, okay? If you're left-handed, you're going to be working at about 7 o'clock, okay? If you try and work on the opposite side, it's just going to pull, it's going to grab, and then it's going to destroy your project. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do to pull these walls up, I'm going to put my hand on the inside to support it, And I usually use kind of a hook of my finger. You can do that. Some people use their finger. Some people use a sponge to do this, to pull up. It's totally up to you. It's just the way that I learned it. I'm just gonna use this technique. I take my finger and I kind of hook it over, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and pull this up at the same rate. Now, this is when you can slow your wheel down, okay? So it's not a race, trust me, slow and steady wins the race on this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do multiple pulls at this point. I should have cut my fingernails because one of these is gonna go in. And I'm gonna make this look really slow, but I usually don't pull up really, really fast. I also don't take my hands off really fast or put them on very fast because you can make, you can pull it out of center. The other thing that I like to do is I like to kind of compress the lip as we go because clay wants to be compressed, and then I'm going to pull it another time. Okay, so I'm slowly starting to pull this up. Now we don't care how tall your cylinder is. We also don't care how thick it is. We only care that it is the same. Now notice that I continue to get my hands wet. I'm also going to compress the top. It's weird. I might have an air bubble in here or something. Okay, the other thing, your bottom is probably going to get a bit of water in it, so I like to kind of take and get some of it out. Okay, so now I've got this pulled up. This is not perfect, but it's good enough for now. The inside, so we now have this kind of pulled up. We now want to make a 90-degree corner. Why do we want to make a 90-degree corner on this? Because if you have a lot of extra clay in here, nobody wants to use a very chunky, heavy bottomed mug, okay? And I've made some, and there's some that should have gone. I should have let those go. And I have them, and I never use them because they're really heavy. Because once you put water into here, it gets even heavier, right? So what you want is you want to make sure that that is not, it's down here in a 90-degree corner. To do that, I find that it's easier to do it with this tool, get it wet, work it at 5 o'clock again, and I usually just carve it in. Some people would say this is cheating, but not for you. Okay, you are going to take out quite a bit of clay. It's okay if you put it into your bucket. All right, so now I have a nice 90-degree corner on the inside of my mug shape or my cylinder. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to foot it. Take your footing tool, turn it around so that it's like this, okay? Again, working at 5 o'clock, I'm going to kick the bottom of this back because nobody wants this like ugly lip down here at the bottom. You got to finish it nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly carve away the bottom till I foot it. Again, pull off any extra clay. Sometimes I take it and I just get rid of the extra stuff at the bottom too. All right, so now I've done that. Last step is to basically chamois the top. Is anybody sitting around some paper towel, a paper towel roll? Can you just grab me a little chunk of paper towel? Sorry, that's one thing I had to grab. Paper towels are sometimes good also to clean, kind of to get this dried off. Cool, thanks. So normally what I do is I use my paper towel as a chamois. Just take a piece of paper towel, dunk it into your water, and take it and just sort of drape it over the edge. Sometimes it'll break, that's fine. It did its job. So what you want to do is you want to just make sure that this is somewhat rounded over, okay? Once you have this done, you're done. And now you have to cut it in half because I want to see what it looks like in half, not as an actual sphere. So this is where people cannot get attached to your work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire tool, I'm going to cut right down the middle, and sometimes I kind of saw back and forth. And then I pull toward me, I'm not gonna show you that one. The one that I wanna see is the one on the bat. Okay, so bring me the bat, take it completely off, and what you wanna do is you wanna look to make sure that you have a 90-degree corner down at the bottom. Your bottom and your walls are the same thickness. For the most part, this one is, if I cut this down closer to the bat. Your top is chamoised over so it's not sharp, and then your bottom is footed. So when you want your grade, you're gonna come up to me with this, and you're gonna show it to me, and I'm gonna put it into the grade book. Again, each one of these things is worth 10 points. So even walls and bottom, that's 10. Chamois the top, that's 10. Footing the bottom, 10. And then 90-degree corner is 10. All right, anybody have any questions on this? We are